Depersonalization and derealization are types of disassociation. Depersonalization is the feeling that you're disconnected from yourself, whereas derealization is more the feeling of being disconnected from other people and from the outside world. The feeling itself has a lot of different aspects to it. It feels like, one, there's a glass wall in between me and everything else in the world, that everything is a dream, everything is sort of kind of lagging in a way. It's like my brain takes a lot longer to process things than it normally would. For example, when I am experiencing DPDR, it feels like I second guess a lot of things that happen because everything does kind of feel unreal. Time kind of feels a little bit slower. It feels like things are kind of in slow motion. It can feel like you're in a bubble outside, separated from the rest of the world. I feel physically and emotionally sort of numb, especially emotionally. Physically, it's more like, since I feel so disconnected from the rest of the world, it's still taking my brain a little bit longer to process. So when I do things, it's just a general lag. The first time I experienced DPDR was when I think I was 9 years old, about 9 years old. And it only lasted, I would say, about a few hours to a day at max, but I was really, really scared. I had gone up to my dad and my sister and I had told them that everything felt like a dream, even though I knew it wasn't. And I was really, really frightened. They both kind of shrugged it off. They thought I was just really tired, and they told me to basically just sleep it off or go take a nap. And it did go away after I did that, but I never figured out what that experience was and why it had happened. And then the next time I experienced it was when I was 18. So it was in between my senior year of high school and my freshman year of college. And I was going to like a graduation type party. And when I went, it was a good time, but I woke up the next day and I felt like everything was a dream, and everything felt really foggy and just felt really disoriented in a way. And I kind of let the feelings go on for that whole day. I just figured that I was just tired or just exhausted. But then the feelings kept going into the next day, and I started to get really nervous because I hated the feeling itself. So I did a bunch of Google searches as to what the feeling was, and I found that it was DPDR. So once I found that out, I got even more panicked because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if this feeling would go away. So I told my mom. My mom took me to a therapist, and the therapist confirmed that what I was feeling was DPDR and that it comes about in times of extreme stress. At that time, I didn't know what I was stressed out about, but looking back, I was just about to leave my childhood home. We were selling the house. I was about to go to a completely new place. So I didn't realize how stressed I was, which I think is why I went into that episode. The therapist had said, oh, these feelings will fade over time, and they did. They left after about a week of me dealing with it and kind of faded away. But then after that experience, I went through a bunch more episodes of DPDR in times where I was extremely stressed out about something. I experienced DPDR, I would say, since it's in times of extreme stress, whether I'm aware of what's stressing me out or not. For example, if I'm ignoring something or kind of pushing something off to the side. It really depends on what's going on in my life and what I'm dealing with, but on average, from the first time I really experienced it when I was 18 till now, 5 years later, I would say it's about twice a year. And in terms of how long they last, it also varies. In the beginning, my episodes were shorter but a lot more severe. They would last just a week and a day. And during that week, it would be really hard for me to get anything done. I would be extremely just unable to even talk to people regularly, go outside, because I was just avoiding anything that would make me even more nervous than I already was. I didn't want people to find out that I was going through this or to think that I was acting weird. But I'd really isolate myself because the feelings were so severe at that time. Then as time went on, they started to get a little less severe. The feelings wouldn't be as overwhelming, but the episodes went up to about 2 weeks at a time. So I would have the feelings of DPDR for about 2 weeks, but they would be a lot less severe than they were when I was a little bit younger. My last episode was this past January. It was 2 weeks long, and while it wasn't as severe as my past episodes, it was my first episode in a while, so it hurt to be in that space again, but since I've gotten used to it over time, it was definitely a lot less frightening than the previous episodes. Each episode gets better, in a sense, because I know what it is. I know that it's my brain's way of coping with stress. So each episode gets a little better because I know what to do, and I know that I'm going to be okay and that I'm going to get out of it. And I think that episode was it came out of the stress of finishing up a semester, going into my last semester of senior year. I think I just got a little overwhelmed, and that episode was my brain's way of telling me that I should confront that stress and deal with that stress rather than kind of trying to push it aside or ignore it. When I first started experiencing DPDR, I didn't really want to tell anyone. And I didn't tell anyone for a really long time, even my closest friends, because there's a fear behind telling people that they'll see you differently. Since DPDR isn't really as well known as other things, there's not that much awareness about it in general. You're afraid that if you do tell people that they won't know what it is and that it'll put you in a weird spot because the feeling itself is so hard to describe. So you don't want people viewing you differently. It kind of makes you not want to tell anyone. Then, as time went on, I started to be a little bit more open about my experiences with DPDR because it was already so isolating to feel those feelings. DPDR it makes you feel extremely alone, and that's magnified because you don't want to tell anyone that you're going through that. So once I started to tell my friends, tell my closest friends, and be a little bit more open about it with my family, they were able to kind of help me through when I was going through those hard times and when I am going through those hard times. Because no matter what, the people that love you just want to be there for you. And when you're a little bit more open about those experiences, it can be easier to get through them and to see that things are going to be okay and that you do have that support. I've also seen that telling people has let me meet others with DPDR, which has been really, really nice, because sometimes the other person would say, oh, I also have DPDR. And from there, finally meeting others who have gone through the same experiences as you and know exactly the way that you feel when you are going through DPDR just helps you feel more normal in a way. It makes you feel like you're not the only one that's going through this and that there are people to talk to. When I'm in that state, it's really hard for me to feel safe in general, since everything feels so off and foggy. And because I feel like that, I don't really want to interact with other people. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to be with friends because I'm afraid that they're going to recognize that I'm not okay. And because of that disconnection, it can be really, really difficult to get out and to be with the people that make you feel the safest. But I've realized that pushing through it in a way, and it's really difficult, but trying to get out and see the people that care for you and love you and the people that you love really helps in distracting you from it and distracting you from those feelings, because even though it can be so hard to deal with, kind of knowing that there's always going to be those specific people that are going to be there for you and that are going to support you no matter what is really, really helpful. I would also say something that has also helped is when I am in that state and I want to fight it and I want to fight those feelings and ignore them, I found that kind of just letting those feelings flow and trying to accept them, even though it's extremely difficult to do so, helps in terms of kind of getting through it in the fastest way that you can. Because when you start to accept them and kind of see them as a part of yourself, and they're not necessarily a negative part of yourself, then it kind of already gets better from there, because you see them as just a way of your brain coping with stress, whether you're aware of that stress or you're not. A lot of my episodes in the past have been because I was unintentionally ignoring something that my brain was saying, hey, you should focus on this, you should address this, it's affecting you more than you think it is. So I kind of see it as my brain's way of trying to let me know that I need to work through specific things, and that once I do work through those things, it's going to be for the better. Because if you're ignoring those things, it kind of builds up. And I used to bottle things up a lot. It's your brain's way of also taking a break. It's kind of thinks that you can't handle certain things, and in that sense, it kind of turns everything off. But once you do address that stress, or for others, it can be day-to-day stresses or big life-changing experiences, traumatic experiences, periods of transition where you have a lot going on in your life, that can also trigger it. But once you start to work through those experiences and work through those stressors, the feeling starts to fade, And while it does take a lot of time to work through those stressors and those experiences, it ends up helping you in the long run. The feelings get less frightening over time. It's something that makes you who you are, and it makes you see the world differently. And that's okay. It's just a different way of experiencing things. It makes you gain more insight into yourself and who you are. After an episode ends, I feel extremely relieved because I'm finally, quote, back to my baseline, my normal self. Everything kind of feels a little bit richer, in a sense. I feel a little bit more grateful, as corny as it sounds, about the little things. I get really happy about the little things again, and I'm just really grateful that I'm not in that state anymore. And once you get through it, and once you start learning more about it and how it affects you and how you can get through it, you'll get through episodes quicker. You'll learn more about yourself and who you are, and it'll help you meet others with DPDR, and you'll meet more people who have gone through the same exact things as you. And that is probably the most comforting part, seeing that you're not alone, and that no matter how disconnected you feel, there are people around you that have gone through the same things and have gotten through it and are getting through it. It feels like it's going to last forever. It feels like you're never going to get out of it and that you're going to be stuck like that, but you're not. And while it takes a lot of time to work through those things, it'll eventually get you to a point where you are okay again and where you can experience things and feel normal and feel like everything is okay.